Hello and welcome to Midday Live. My name is Efwa Tieku. Top of the bulletin this afternoon. Picketing by members of Sudanese refugee community in front of office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees enters third week. Civil society expressed dissenting views on president's encounter with the media. On the international front, tens of thousands of passengers at one of the UK's busiest airports facing major disruption after two drones were seen over the airfield. Now, members of the Sudanese refugee community in Ghana are still picketing in front of the office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees 3 weeks after they demonstrated. The refugees said they are prepared to stay in front of the UNHCR head office until their demands are met. Natalie Fort was there and brings us more.
Members of the Sudanese refugee community here in Ghana 3 weeks ago demonstrated in front of the UNHCR head office to request for a durable solution to their problems. They want help with healthcare, education and accommodation. It's been 3 good weeks since they demonstrated and still no clear response to their needs. They say they're prepared to stay in front of the UNHCR head office until they get a clear response.
The response they're giving to us is is not clear at all, and even I cannot tell you, so especially the way they respond for us. And then the problem we staying here, so we have a challenge, the challenges in health and education and accommodation, but this is not for those who are living in the Christian refugee camp. So here we are staying, some of us they are staying here and living inside Accra as they are urban refugees, and some of us from the Christian refugee camp. Those who are staying in the Christian refugee camp, the main problem we have is the rooms where we used to live is a leaking water. So we want them to maintain up for us. And what they are telling us that we are responsible for that way to maintain on our own. And we don't have job opportunities to have the income to do all of these things. So we want to them help us to do all of these things. And what they're responding for us is they can't do it. So that's why we're prepared to stay here until we will find someone to help us to do this one.
Some people will come in the road, they give us everything we want. Some people they give us money, who come and ask, why you people stay outside, they ask.
Now we have 24 days. We are here in front of UNHCR office. And since that time, we have 3 times discussion with them. First, we give them our letter, we explain what we want, they tell us wait, and then we come, we can see that. We wait for them for 2 days, they don't come back. Now the 3rd time, we send our brother, AUP, go and ask them. They said, okay, then come. We can discuss that one in table. We sit and we discuss and we will see what will happen. Now when we go, they tell us about the food. They cannot arrange it for us because it stopped a long time ago. And about the shelters, those that are in Accra, they cannot do anything for them. And we in the camp, they said they cannot promise us they will do it for us or not. They are not sure even. And now we came for health care. They said only on 25% they will agree, but 50% they will not agree. Until they will reply us something, we can justify it with it.
And of course, yesterday the president met with the media and he said the ban on illegal mining, that's Galamsey, has not been lifted and will not be lifted. Interacting with the media at the Jubilee House, the president noted it is the ban on legitimate small-scale mining which has rather been lifted.
The lifting of the ban on small-scale mining announced on December 14 follows the vetting of some 907 out of the 1,350 small-scale miners. Government in August this year announced the roadmap towards the lifting of the ban on small-scale mining. President Kufuor insisted the ban was only on small-scale mining.
The ban on Galamsey, i.e. illegal mining, has not been lifted and will not be lifted. The ban on small-scale mining was never intended to be permanent. It was to enable government fashion a policy that will sanitize the sector and ensure that in future, small-scale mining, which has been with us for centuries, will not damage our environment.
Touching on agriculture, the president touted the abundance of food on the market.
We're currently exporting plantain to some of our neighbors. Quite a turnaround from when I was lamenting 2 years ago that we were importing plantains from Côte d'Ivoire. We also did not import a single grain of maize this year.
On railways, President Akufo-Addo said government is working to revive and resurrect Ghana's rail system to improve on the movement of persons and goods.
Rehabilitation work on the 56-kilometer narrow gauge line from Kujukrum to Takwa through Insuta is nearing completion. This will lead to the restoration of passenger rail services from Takwa to Takoradi for the first time since 2007.
President Akufo-Addo also lauded efforts of staff of the Ghana Railway Company Limited.
The Ghana Railway Company Limited, with its own workforce, started rehabilitation works on the 70.8-kilometer narrow gauge section of the Eastern Railway line from Accra to Nsawam and Accra to Tema. They did not have or need any foreign experts, so-called. They had the expertise, and those who did not were ready to learn, and they certainly had enough enthusiasm to carry them through.
And still at the encounter, the president said the Ghana Education Service is to receive $1.5 billion facility to address the infrastructural challenges in the senior high schools.
Tranche of this facility will be used to build more classroom blocks and dormitories in our schools, to give our schools appropriate facilities to meet the demands of the 21st century. And so we are on double track. And we're building the classrooms and laboratories and gradually turning the once deprived schools into well-equipped ones.
Well, the majority in Parliament has dismissed calls by the minority for a presidential probe into the alleged inflated Ghanaian embassy building in Oslo, Norway. The vice chairman of Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, Kweku Amprechum Sapong, said there's no need for the president to waste state resources on mere allegations by the NDC MPs.
The minority in Parliament on Tuesday called on President Akufo-Addo to open a full probe into what they say is the inflated price of a building suspected to be Ghana's embassy in Oslo, Norway. Addressing the media in Parliament, minority spokesperson on Foreign Affairs Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa insisted the country had bought the said property, contrary to claims by the Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayoko-Botwe. He further described the transaction as bad. But speaking to the media in Parliament, the Vice Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament, Kweku Amprechum Sapong, who is also the MP for Mampon, said the minority MPs are only engaging in propaganda and there is no need for an investigation into the matter.
The opposition and the ranking member again has been peddling untruth. They have always been referring to a six-bedroom property for which he says we are paying 12 million. That is not the case. The property that we express interest in to use as the chancery is a 15-bedroom, 15-bedroom property, not a 6-bedroom. So again, you see, mischief is at work.
Well, the Electoral Commission has inaugurated a 9-member ROPAL Consultative and Implementation Committee to seek the implementation of ROPAL. The committee, chaired by Deputy Commissioner in charge of administration, is tasked with the responsibility of engaging and consulting all stakeholders for effective implementation of ROPAL. My colleague Collins Suman is at the EC office and joins me on the line. Hello, Collins.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. So, who are the members of this committee?
All right, so the 9-member committee is chaired by Deputy EC in charge of administration, Dr. Bosman Asari. The other members who are on the committee, the EC itself has about 3 representatives. Apart from Dr. Bosman Asari, Ms. Ajwa Isiama Ibilfa is also a member of the committee. Christian Owusu Pari, who is the secretary to the committee, is also from the Electoral Commission, making 3 members from the Electoral Commission on the committee. Other members include the General Secretary of the NPP, Mr. John Buedu, Dr. Benjamin Kumwo is representing the NDC, Dr. Kojo Asante is from the CDD, and the Professor Jampo is from the University of Ghana, and finally, Reverend Dr. Enes Edujempi is also a member of the committee, and he is representing the National Peace Council. One other member of the committee, and of course, this is a coalition of all the smaller political parties. I'm referring to the CPP, PPP, PNC, APC, and all the other political parties. They are also supposed to come together and nominate one person to represent them, and that person will be the 9th member on the committee. However, there was one key issue raised here when that issue came up. According to the smaller political parties who came here, and this time around it was Acting General Secretary of the CPP, Mr. Joseph Kobnabon, popularly known as Kakabila, who raised that issue, that the small political parties did not know anything about that. In fact, that directive was not given to them. So they are surprised that the Electoral Commission is raising that issue up, that they fail to elect or nominate one person to represent them. The Electoral Commission came and responded to that very allegation. Their point was clear that the last IPAC meeting they held, that issue came up strongly, and the parties were directed to do so. And so they expressed surprise that they have come back today raising issues about it. But of course, the resolution is that the other smaller political parties, the PPP, CPP, APC, and all the other parties, would elect or select one person to represent them on the committee.
And when this committee is fully constituted, when are they supposed to submit their findings?
The committee is supposed to report to the Electoral Commission with all its recommendations and findings by May 2019, by 31st of May 2019. All the reports on whatever work they did must be ready. And of course, so if we calculate from now, the committee has just about 5 months to conclude its work.
Collins, thank you very much. That was Collins Suman at the Electoral Commission. Now, the Attorney General has filed a nolle prosequi to discontinue with the trial involving the Chinese lady accused of engaging in illegal mining and one popularly known as Aisha Wan and 4 others. The 5 Chinese nationals have been deported to their country.
The court discharged the 5 accused persons based on the application filed by the Attorney General, which was presided over by Justice Ecole Baden. The individuals were immediately processed by the immigration and airlifted out of the country. Aisha and her accomplices were arraigned on May 9, 2017 for engaging in illegal mining at Bipotintin in the Amansia Central District of the Ashanti region. She was charged with 3 counts of undertaking small-scale mining operations contrary to Section 99(1) of the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, providing mining support services without valid registration with the Minerals Commission, contrary to the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, and the illegal employment of foreign nationals, contrary to the Immigration Act 2000, Act 573. The other 4 accused persons were charged with disobedience of directives given by or under the Immigration Act. According to the prosecution, their checks at the Minerals Commission revealed Aisha had no license to operate either a mine or a mining support services company. The visas issued to all the 5 Chinese by the Ghana Embassy in Beijing, China, the prosecution contended did not allow them to work in Ghana.
Now, the People's National Convention has petitioned Parliament to relook at the Public Holidays Act 2001, that's Act 601. The party believes the current government is subsequently attempting to rewrite the country's history and introduce new holidays to suit the agenda. Government last week presented documents to Parliament for an amendment of the Public Holidays Act. Thus, the PNC believes are attempted at rewriting the country's history. And I do have in the studio Bernard Mona. He's the national chairman of the PNC. Bernard, thank you so much for your time. So why do you think that government is trying to rewrite history with this bill?
The dates that the government has chosen to alter and to obliterate in our national history are dates that represent partly the soul and spirit of our nation. 1st July is the day that Ghana eventually gained full self-determination. And for anybody to say that the day that we attain full self-determination is an irrelevant date and that it is a waste of your time is to tell you that your independence, after all, should not have been granted. It is because of our independence that President Akufo-Addo can ascend to the high office of president. And the day that made that possible is 1st July 1960. So for any attempt to underwrite and to obliterate that date in our national calendar is to say that President Akufo-Addo doesn't believe in the efficacy of the office that he's holding. The other important date, which is September 21st, signifies the founding of our nation and is attributed to the birth of the founder of our nation, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. To set aside that date and to go in for any other day, that has no correlation whatsoever to the founding of our nation. And indeed is to suggest that the founding of our nation was done to the exclusion of Kwame Nkrumah. All of us do know that 4th August 1947 was the day the UGCC was founded. And indeed, when the Michael Quay delivered his lecture, he indicated that the banner behind him represented those who founded the United Gold Coast Convention, and Nkrumah was not part of them. So clearly, you get to understand that they are suggesting that Ghana was founded without Kwame Nkrumah. And you know that the UGCC never won for us our independence. But it is the CPP under Kwame Nkrumah that won for us our independence. So the founding of our nation cannot be done when there was no Ghana. So therefore, to suggest that 4th August should be a day that we should celebrate as Founders Day is to say that, look, our history doesn't matter. And so
you're not content with the fact that 21st September is still held as a
21st September
as a holiday.
21st September
in honor of Kwame Nkrumah.
It is our Founders Day. It is the founding of our nation that we are talking about. You understand? So to say that, look, Ghana was founded without Kwame Nkrumah, I'm sure that even you, that puzzles you a lot, because all of us do know, with the literary history that any one of us would have studied, do know that Kwame Nkrumah led the revolutionary push for the attainment of our independence.
So you are petitioning in Parliament on this matter. What exactly are you asking for?
We are asking Parliament to reject the bill that has been submitted by the Minister for Interior. We are telling them that if they assemble the facts well, they will know that if there are any holidays to be tempted with, it should not be these 3 significant days in our history as a nation and as a continent.
Right. But are you hopeful that you would get through with it? Because
many members of Parliament,
they have the majority.
Many members of Parliament, and strangely, will call me and say, Bernard, we support your idea. And I've told them repeatedly, don't support me. Go and reject it because you know that this is an affront on our constitutional and independence as a nation. So those who are calling me and to encourage me to continue to do what we are doing, I say, don't do that. You have a duty as a citizen of this nation, a right to protect the dignity and sovereignty of this nation.
Isn't just the PNC that is championing this?
I'm sure that many other people have submitted petitions to the Select Committee on Defense and Interior. It's not just the PNC, as I do know. Are you
privy to some other?
I do know that the CPP has sent a petition. I do know that the PPP were preparing to send a petition. I do know that some civil society organizations and individuals also want to send petitions. And I think that the manner in which petitions are flowing to the Parliament should give an indication that this is a very unpopular move, a move that the people of Ghana will resent.
Right, now let me just pick your brain on yesterday's president's encounter with the media. What do you think of the encounter?
First, let me state that there is no law compelling the president to engage with the media. And to the extent that the president on volition decide that he is going to meet with the media twice a year, is not a problem. I think that the handlers of the president simply have to be told the truth. That look, you don't get the man fatigued and then bring him to an important event like this. You could see clearly that the president was fatigued. He was in a hurry to finish and go away. What was the essence then in inviting the media to come and engage with a tired president whose responses were that of a tired man, and they did not focus on the subject matter for which the questions were asked. Yesterday was a waste of our national resources. It was a waste of my time, and I'm sure your time as well, because you dedicated airtime, people did not stop their work. They had to concentrate to listen to the president, and the outcome was very abysmal of our president.
Thank you very much. Bernard Mona is the chairman of the PNC. Thank you so much for your time. Now on to our MTN Video Reports for today, and our citizen journalist Tony Hola Gumado reports on the nature of a road at Tema Community 5 in the Greater Accra region.
This is one of the terrible roads we have here. As you can see, cars cannot cross. But this road leads to one of the major places in this area. This road is called Kings Avenue in Tema, Community 25. At least every day cars that pass this road are more than 200. But see what is happening.
Right, so you can also send your video reports via our WhatsApp number 055-1433-044, and we will air it. You're watching Midday Live on TV3. Stay with us. In business this afternoon, President Akufo-Addo has reiterated no one found complicit in the collapse of the 7 local banks will be spared. He revealed that a special investigations team has been put in place to undertake criminal investigations into the matter for possible prosecutions by the relevant state agencies. President Akufo-Addo was addressing the media at an end-of-year press conference.
The government has set up a special investigations team to undertake criminal investigations into the failures of all 7 banks for possible prosecutions by the relevant state agencies. No one found complicit will be spared. The Bank of Ghana is conducting its own internal investigations into the conduct of its officials, past and present, that could have facilitated wrongdoing at these banks.
The president says he is confident that at the end of the period given by the central bank for commercial banks to recapitalize, Ghana will have a stronger, more resilient banking sector with a strong indigenous presence. He said this at the encounter with the media.
It is important that the cost of these interventions, which were borne by taxpayers, are recovered to the extent possible through recoveries from debtors, shareholders, and related and connected parties who took money from the defunct banks. The receivership processes are ongoing, and the receivers are making great strides in their recovery efforts. Amounts in excess of 400 million cedis have so far been recovered by the receivers of the 2 banks closed last year. The 22 banks that have met the new requirement include a good number of indigenous banks. A few others are in the final stages of meeting this requirement. I'm confident that at the end of the exercise, we will have a stronger, more resilient banking sector with a strong indigenous presence, well positioned to finance the next phase of our agenda of economic growth.
Now, away from the presidency, November producer price inflation was 6.5%. This rate represents a 0.7 percentage point decrease in producer inflation relative to the 7.2% rate recorded in October. Acting government statistician Ba Wadie attributed the decrease to a base drift effect in prices in the petroleum sector.
The producer price inflation in the petroleum sector was 27.7% in 2017, as against 30.6% in November this year.
The decrease in the oil industry inflation rate from 7.2% in October to 6.5% in November as a result of the decrease in the inflation rates in the manufacturing subsector. There were decreases in the prices of petroleum products in the country. That accounted partly for the observed decline in the oil industry producer price index.
The manufacturing subsector recorded the highest year-on-year producer price inflation of 8.6%, followed by the mining and quarrying subsector with 4.7%.
Inflation rates in the manufacturing subsector. For manufacturing, we observed that two groups recorded drops in their inflation rate. First, we had a drop in the inflation rate for the manufacture of refined petroleum products, and then there was also the drop in the inflation rate for food and food products.
The utilities subsector recorded the lowest year-on-year producer price inflation of negative 0.9%. The producer price index, or inflation, measures the average change over time in the selling prices received by domestic producers for their output. Meanwhile, the acting government statistician Bawadie is due for retirement as he will be 60 years on Friday, December 21.
I'll be leaving this office. So I also want to thank all of you for how you've worked with us. We've enjoyed, in fact, this collaboration and this partnership. And we are looking forward and trusting that you continue to give the same cooperation and support to whoever comes to take the seats, and also to my deputies and to my directors whom you've interacted so well with. We want to thank you. We believe that this partnership would improve, and we will see greater benefits from this in terms of how statistics is disseminated to the country. Thank you very much.
And that's all for business this afternoon. Now, the National Youth Authority is to train 10,000 youth in various livelihood skills with support from the International Monetary Fund next year. The CEO of the authority, Emmanuel Signet Asigri, disclosed this when the Managing Director of IMF, Christine Lagarde, visited some headquarters at the Purim African Youth Development Platform at Agbobloshi in Accra.
Purim African Youth Development Platform, paid at Agbobloshi in Accra, trains headquarters popularly known as Kayayes to equip them with livelihood skills and on health issues. These Kayayes come to the cities with little or no skills at all. During a visit to the center, the CEO of the National Youth Authority, Emmanuel Signet Asigri, indicated the IMF is supporting the authority to train 10,000 youth, and indicated a land has been acquired in Accra to be developed into a training center for the youth.
It is my hope that what we are going to put in place, we would structure it in such a way that nobody would come in there as the CEO and say, I don't want to continue with this type of a program, because we have a challenge which cannot be a one-off thing. The 10,000 number which I put out is woefully inadequate when you look at the numbers in terms of the informal sector. Check the number of young people who are hawking on the streets and tell me that we are not talking of tens of thousands of them, but we have to start somewhere.
Managing Director of IMF, Christine Lagarde, donated $15,000 to the Purim African Youth Development Platform for skills training for the Kayayes at the training center.
That of the 10,000 people that will go into the program next year, you make sure that there are at least 50% girls and 50% boys, because very often the boys come first and the girls come last.
Most of the Kayayes indicated they do this to acquire money to continue their education. Some of the Kayayes who have gone through the paid program share their experiences.
I worked through on that one, so I gathered some money through the selling of that product I was able to make. I gathered some money and went back to school, and I'm now at the University of Education, Winneba, Kumasi campus.
That I gathered some extra money in addition to the little that I get from the KIA. That sent me back to SHS, and I'm now out with my results.
Executive Director of PAID, Aku Zonam Kivi, noted the need for a fund to help Kayayes to go back to school.
We have an integrated approach. We give them livelihood empowerment skills, sexual and reproductive health information, sexual and gender-based violence training and information, legal literacy.
These skills are mostly transferable to other occupations to make these youth very competitive in their own businesses or be competitive in seeking for job opportunities. Eben Ejekumbuatin, TV3, Accra.
You're watching Midday Live on TV3. Do stay with us. We'll be back with sports. And multiple award-winning musician Samina has held a listening session for his 7th studio album titled Untamed. The album, comprising 22 reggae songs, is to confirm him Africa's king of reggae and dancehall music. But what inspired the decision to release the purely reggae album?
What is wrong? What is wrong? She don't be naughty dread. Kaya says she don't be naughty dread.
Untamed, Samina's 7th studio album, is finally out.
Catch the vibe and don't let it go away. Reggae feeling, catch the vibe and don't let it go away. It's a reggae feeling.
That was Reggae Nice, a tune that endorses reggae as an authentic music genre. The soothing and irresistible rhythm of Natty Dread, the 3rd track on the album, got Samini nodding and tapping his feet. Rainbow, the 4th track, was produced by acclaimed sound engineer Quick Action. Other songs on the album include Obra, Craving, Never Scared, and Old Man's Radio. Beaming with pride, the prolific composer soaked the tracks on the album, taking time to explain what inspired them. The listening session enjoyed a massive response from patrons.
I realize how reggae from me goes down with my people. Fans have always been saying, we want more reggae, we want more reggae. So I said, you know what, on my 7th album, it's going to be purely reggae. And
Meanwhile, celebrated Ghanaian musician Kojo Antwi wants a legislation to compel real estate developers to build spaces to promote recreational activities. The legendary musician believes the absence of event venues across the country has negatively impacted on the arts industry.
Over the years, you've shifted the venue from the National Theatre to other venues. Yeah. Does that speak of the fact that we lack spaces to host events?
You see, the capacity of a conference center wasn't even built for events.
Right.
National Theatre was, but a population of about
39.6 million.
Well, yeah. You do not expect someone who lives all the way at Fazako to drive 2 hours to come to National Theatre. That is not fair. We have all these estate developers, and it must be part of a scheme that if you build about 100 or 200 houses, there must be a recreation center, a place that the capacity may be just for about 400, 500.
Right.
But then you create a place that people can go to, a multi-purpose kind of space that you can do a lot of recreational activities.
Right. Somebody said that, yes, the musicians are demanding for these things, and I know you're part of them.
Yeah.
But not many within your ranks fulfill their tax obligations. They are the first to demand.
It's a system we inherited.
So whose money should we use to build these halls which will eventually benefit the musician? That's the question.
I think, you see, before you start asking the musician, and we complain about venues, I think there are systems that must be put in place.
Tell me about
I think
them.
some of the corporate bodies must have tax holidays if you can come out and produce shows or promote shows across the nation. Number of shows.
Okay.
Go to Ivory Coast. They do same.
Right.
And that's how we wrap up Midday Live for today. My name is Efua Tieku. Thanks for staying with us. Have a lovely afternoon.